Welcome back to the workshop. We had already a very intense day yesterday, and we had some discussions about piano practice, especially for you guys who are non-professional. As you know, I'm specializing on that, on how to make progress as a non-professional musician, because I really believe that's also very important. That we also face that, that people are encouraged to learn instruments on their own. Of course, what I talk today is mostly for pianists, but it's also gonna help other musicians with other instruments, but it's especially also for piano technique and all these kinds of things. So the most important thing when it comes to practice, and one thing that many of you are neglecting a little bit, is that Genauigkeit, that precision. Because precision in many kinds of things. Schumann, for example, talked about Gefühlsdeutlichkeit, so the precision in feeling, basically, which is a very interesting concept, because we always think feeling is only chaotic, but to have really that clarity, what do you feel when you play this one piece or the other piece, but also precision in thinking, that you are really conscious, okay, what do I do here, what do I do next when I practice, that you're really precise with how you think while you practice, and also precision in the touch, that you really feel, okay, here that feels like this or that. We always talk about tension and release. With UJ, for example, we talked about that a lot, but also with you, Darius, we did also precision of pedaling, for example. This kind of precision is one thing that is, just from my experience, very challenging for non-professionals. It's really going into the smallest possible units where you can put your focus on. So it's just the opposite of just starting out, going into that chaos, but really going into these small possible units of thinking, feeling, and touch, that you really focus on details, basically. It's actually what comes before improvement. Before we can improve something, we have to be aware of it, right? So we want to sharpen our awareness of each little musical thought, idea, feeling. Okay, how does that key feel like, etc. So to really be aware of the details, first of all, before we even think that we change something, or before we even try to change something. That's the two aspects of piano playing. One is this playing, where you really go into spontaneity and you really explore. It's also what you do when you improvise, for example. And there is this, when you take things in two parts. You take it apart, the piece, and you really go into these details before you put it back into the whole context. That's also practicing. So there is this is the very conscious part of practice. And then when you put it back and you're spontaneous again, you forget about that, but it's the work that you have to do before you're able to perform it in the way you like to do it. And what I observed over the last few years of working with non-professionals is that especially this precision part is sometimes lacking, because we're also enthusiastic about music. We're gonna talk about that also later. Enthusiastic about music, enthusiastic about just the feelings, etc. That we sometimes forget about that, taking things out of it and putting it back into it again. And if you start doing that really consciously, you will see that after a prolonged period of time, even the spontaneous parts will feel much better, because you have added to that the conscious practice. So you will then have a better intuition than you had in the beginning. So it's basically, you have a piece, you start learning it, and you have that fascination. Okay, this piece is really wonderful, etc. This motivation, this inspiration from the music itself. Then you come to the second phase, and you can start working on all the details of thinking, feeling, touch. And then when you come to the third phase, the challenge is to put it back together. So you have that inspiration from the beginning paired with the conscious practice, and that will enable you to perform the pieces in the best possible way. Only when you put those two things together. So what is the difference between a professional musician and a non-professional musician? The main difference is the impatience is higher for non-professionals. I mean, if we talk just about the challenges, I had other videos also on my channel where I talk also about many advantages. You don't have the pressure, right? You are more flexible with which pieces you would like to learn, because no organizer, no teacher, will tell you what kind of things you need to do. Yeah, so you are much freer in that way. But that comes along with this challenge, yeah, that we sometimes neglect the precision, and the impatience is higher because you of course know already much more things than, let's say, an 8-year-old child who's just starting out. You have learned so much about art, about music, about history, about concerts. You have been to maybe dozens of concerts, each of you. So you know much better how it can sound. You already have a clear imagination in your mind, how it should sound, how you want it to sound, etc. So the impatience to get there is much higher compared to, let's say, a young adult who is just starting out practicing, who doesn't know yet what is possible with the instrument, right? You see all these performances online of concert pianists going crazy with La Campanella, for example, yeah, or other things, or you see these Bach recitals, you see orchestra concerts, and you know exactly what it can be, and you want to get there as fast as possible, of course, which is very normal. But with music making, a step forward is sometimes taking a step backward, to actually just observe first of all, and see, okay, what is it actually that we have here in this piece? What is the rhythm? What is the timing? Yeah, what is the metronome? What are the voices in a Bach fugue, like you played, for example, to really take it apart also, because that first phase of practicing you have very quickly, this fascination. Otherwise you would not be here in this room right now if you would not have the fascination for music, right? So we have to learn to deal with that impatience, and I'm the most impatient person myself. We had this discussion last night with Pete, who came up with this concept of greed, and that's exactly what we say, because you know what you want, you not want to get there as fast as possible, and that the tendency is to overwhelm yourself too quickly with pieces that are too difficult, or with also within the piece you increase the tempo too quickly. You try to express things for what you need first, some foundations in the technique. So it's actually a very spiritual path, if you want, because you have to tame yourself with that impatience. And that's also the quickest way forward, by the way. If you tame yourself and you can be aware of that impatience itself and work on the details, and that will move you forward faster. And once you experience that, and that usually comes within a few months, if you start doing that properly, you experience this progress, this real progress. Yeah, Darius, you put it in that, you told me that at the dinner also. You said, how did you say? I forgot. Not exchanging the dopamine kick for long-term progress. Yeah. And it's this, I mean, of course, we all know we're all, our attention span gets shorter. Maybe not for you, Anselm, because you're not so much on social media, but for all the other victims in this room, myself included, we're, it's hard for us to really focus on one thing, but to allow ourselves to feel that impatience and still work on the details. Yeah, what can we work on? So now we get to the details. The topic for today is precision. Maybe you have ideas. What can we focus on? What can we be precise with?
First of all, the reading.
The reading. I would call that, I have that here too. I will call that write notes. Okay, so we say write notes. That we are really precise with which notes do we actually need to play. It sounds obvious, but Sometimes it's more like, you know, when you forget about this, it's more like guessing. Okay, I will somehow get through this. And I can talk from experience, because if I have a complicated piece, I'll just give you an example. Szymanowski Metop I learned 7 years ago. But I remember it took me quite a while, because I made that mistake that I just, okay, I get to this part somehow, and then the next part I know again. But no, stop there. Okay, this is an F sharp, this is an, and you have to do that several times to really be secure there. What are the right notes? And be really precise until you really know that. Do you have ideas what we can focus on?
Fingering, of course.
Fingering, yeah. That is also.
And when the notes comes, of course, it's not which notes,
and
but
in the beginning, of course, it's impossible to focus on all the things at once. So I would encourage you, for each practice session within your piece, you then, once we get to all these points, you choose one point that you focus on that day. Only that, and forget about the other things. To really be precise with, and then the next day you do this, and the next day you do this, and the next day you do this, and you start over again.
But you cannot practice fingering without right notes. I mean, this is your
Yeah, of course. But I would say, okay, then first you focus on the right notes, you focus on the thing. I just say you cannot overwhelm yourself with all the 7 categories, or how many do I have here? I have 6 categories. Yeah.
When you say like every day you start at a point, are you talking about like maybe just a handful or a few measures that you find difficult? Like, is that what you mean when you say like start at the right point each day?
No, I mean that we focus, you practice your piece.
Oh, okay.
And for example, one day you just focus that you get the notes right on a specific page. Of course, a piece can also be separated into many parts, depending if your piece is 10 seconds or half an hour long. This applies to then each section that you practice at the time. But even playing through 2 bars, you should first focus on these things. But let's collect more ideas. Do you have ideas what we can?
Rhythm.
The rhythm, yes. Rhythm. Yeah, rhythm. Also a very big category. Because right notes we can pretty much solve. Fingerings we can pretty much solve. Of course, we will maybe change at one point or the other. But the rhythm can always be better. And by rhythm, it's not a mathematical rhythm, but this pulse we talked about, this breathing, heartbeat. With that, that's a category that you'll never stop focusing on. Of course, you'll also make sure you play the right notes. But the rhythm is a very important thing, and can always be better. It's actually the biggest influence for your interpretation is the timing itself, the rhythm, this inner pulse. It's also the biggest component for your expression in music. As we saw yesterday also with the historic instruments, dynamics and so came much later with piano playing, with keyboard instruments. On the organ, on the clavichord, and clavichord a little bit, but also harpsichord, the dynamic range is not so huge. So what do we have left? We have left the rhythm.
Just a question, if you say, okay, you can better be, rhythm can always be better, then you never achieve a state of precision, because it's always a little bit less than precise.
No, it's always less than perfect, of course, music. That's what's so beautiful about music. It's never the end of the journey. But you should be precise with focusing on that process.
Yeah. The first thing, of course, is just to get the rhythm right. So, so that's
yeah.
Maybe just precision is the road to perfection, but not.
Yes, the precision. That's good. Precision is the road to perfection, and rhythm getting right. Of course, yeah. So I would say 80% right first of all. That you quarter note, eighth notes, but all these.
That's when you start clapping or something.
Yeah, exactly. But all these also notational things are just eine Annäherung an den Rhythmus, approximate rhythm. Okay, but let's collect first all the things before pedaling. Yeah. This I actually forgot, so you brought up an important point. is connected to fingering. Which fingers do I use, which foot do I use, and when and how. Pedaling. Anything else?
Dynamic, no?
Dynamics, yeah.
Mixed expression.
Dynamics. We have
Expression. Is it?
dynamical expression. Yeah.
So the same. Dynamics and expression is the same.
No, it's not the same. No.
What?
It's one part of expression.
Like
Articulation, yes.
Like, are you doing a staccato versus a quarter note, or like you may be playing a chord, but like you have to hold this finger.
We have also. I would just make it one thing on its own. If
Translate articulation in German.
Artikulation.
Really?
Mhm. From the articulare is articulo is a Gelenk. So it's this how long the notes are, and then we have. I just put one overall idea, which is also many things, but just to focus on clarity of sound. Yeah, because we talked about that many times. Sometimes it's a bit too shy. Yeah, that the clarity of sound, and just for the matter of making it complete. Phrasing. Phrasing, body, feeling. I mean, there come many other things in there.
But can you give us like some specific examples when you say articulation?
Articulation. Okay. Do I play da 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 or di 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 or di 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 or di da pop pop di da di da? Yeah, all these kind of different ways of connecting the notes. Of course, there are many other things, and technique is not included here. The technique of how you move your body, etc., is also one category. But really, for you as non-professionals, I would say start from here, start from the top, and move down there. So start with clarity, then rhythm, right notes. Fingerings, pedaling, articulation, dynamics, phrasing.
It was clarity of what again? Clarity of what?
Of the sound.
Clarity of the sound.
I mean, we have also, you know, this. We have more detailed videos on these things, also in the membership area, etc. But this is still very important to make sure you have precision when you practice these things. And I also observed during the workshop that also within your playing, because now we have this intense weekend, yeah, that we have been working so much on precision that already some things changed in your approach. Like you approached me this morning, say, hey, these technical things, we need to work on that more. Yeah, that you're aware now what needs to be changed. Or Darius, that you came up to me and you said, yeah, the pedaling now, it's so much clearer now what I need to do. Yeah. With you, we also discussed about the process of learning a piece, etc. So we just have to be aware first what we can be precise on, because many people say, oh, yeah, just focus more when you practice. Okay, well, focus on what? You need to focus on something, right? So these things are just, of course, they all go into each other, and in the end, you cannot separate them like so much anymore. But these are the musical details for your playing. Of course, later we talk more about the meaning behind the music, also how the body feels in specific situations, and more abstract things. But to really focus on these details with precision first, before you try to speed up the piece, before you try to be extremely expressive, before you try things, because the precision in these details will allow you to play faster, will allow you to play with more expression, will allow you to be more convincing, more charismatic if you want, will allow you to just bring out the composer's intentions more, or your own when you improvise. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you today. So to really go into that, I can only encourage you over and over again to really go into that details, but of course we should not forget that piano playing is something fun, And I'm always suggesting to take some part of the day where you just explore things, but then really sit down for some time to focus on these details. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
So maybe because I asked this question yesterday, so it's for me it's still a little bit unclear. So how then I approach it? If I have this, I take this Bach in mind. So what does it mean? How should I approach this piece with this having in mind? So the clarity, rhythm, right notes, and then so I do not start with the right notes, but I start with the. So what does it mean to start with the clarity of sound before I start to play the notes, the right notes?
We're going to talk about like the order of these things. Right?
Yeah. Now, I mean, the first three are basically combined. Yeah, always you cannot. But still, it's important that you're clear when you play, and that the rhythm is clear. The rhythm is actually more important than the right notes.
Yeah, we saw yesterday what you